So, good day, everyone. Our discussion for this week and our activity is on medication reconciliation. So, the learning objectives of this session and activity are the following. So, at the end of the session, students must be able to describe the concept and importance of medication reconciliation in various patient settings and perform medication reconciliation of patient cases in transitions of care. So first, we define what medication reconciliation is. So there is no specific or um, widely used description or definition of medication reconciliation. So it depends on the organization, for example, where you're working, or different international organizations that make use of medication reconciliation. So these are just examples. And as what you can see, although there are different definitions, they technically mean the same. So first, this is a systematic review, no, which we will be covering later on as well. So this systematic review basically looked at different outcomes that medication reconciliation can actually provide. So its definition on MEDREC is that it is a process to prevent errors at transitions of care by building a complete list of a person's medications, checking them for accuracy, reconciling them, and documenting any changes. And according to the FIP, or the International Pharmaceutical Federation, MEDREC is the systematic process of curating and compiling an accurate and up-to-date list of all kinds of medicines a patient is using at all transitions of care to eliminate medication discrepancies and control any existing or potential medication errors. While the PCNE, which is what the AHRQ is using, defines medication reconciliation as a structured evaluation of the patient's medicines with the aim of optimizing medicines use and improving health outcomes. So, in all of these definitions, what we can actually see is that medication reconciliation is creating an up-to-date list of the patient's medications in different in the patient's transition of care. So when the patient is in the hospital, when the patient is just admitted, and when there are transitions of care in the hospital, when the patient gets discharged, when the patient is at the outpatient setting. So medication reconciliation is done in all of those transitions so that the patient will have the most up-to-date list of their medications. And the healthcare provider also has that list, which could help the healthcare provider in providing other medications for the patient, making sure that the medications are safe for the patient, to see if there are medications that need to be stopped, medications that need to be continued. So what are the reasons why there is usually a lack of a complete medication reconciliation in different transitions of care? So one is physician and nurse workflows. So currently, the people or healthcare providers that have direct patient interaction are usually the physicians and the nurses, especially in the inpatient setting. However, in their workflow, they do not traditionally include making a regular inventory of all medications a patient is taking. So they don't take notes on the prescription meds of the patient, the OTCs, any herbal supplements or vitamins of the patients, or after taking that list, also on verifying if the list is accurate. And because of that, technically, there is no medication reconciliation when a patient goes to a physician or is talking to a nurse. Another is the lack of integration of patient health records across the continuum of care. So this, since there is no standards regarding what constitutes a comprehensive medication reconciliation or medication history, then the medication information of a patient would depend no on who takes notes about it. So when it's a pharmacist, it can be the patient medication profile. Some doctors, usually if a doctor is a gen med doctor, general medicine or internal medicine or family medicine na doctor, they usually take a list of prescribed medications. Therefore, there can be a data the EMR of that specific patient can have that list, but usually it's not complete. So we need to take all of those databases, interview the patient or their healthcare provider to have the most comprehensive list. However, who takes that medication history? No? So that is usually the pharmacist. But later on, you will see why the pharmacist usually cannot do it all the time. Then another is the patient's lack of knowledge of their medication. So although our main source of information on the medicines being taken are the patients and their family members, sometimes they may not be the best like historians no of the medications that they have taken. So sometimes the patient does not know that this is the drug that he or she is taking. They just know the color of the medicine, and usually they don't know the past medications that they were taking. So for example, the patient was given metformin 1 gram or 1,000 milligrams. If that metformin changed, like for example, 3 months ago, that metformin was only 500 milligrams, would the patient have remembered that there was a change in dose? So sometimes the patient does not provide the most accurate information. That's why we also look for the records of the patient to make sure that the records reconcile with what the patient or the family members are saying, so that we can get the most accurate medication records and medication history. So what factors affect medication reconciliation? So there can be external factors and internal factors, no? And these factors are usually what affects the implementation and the piloting and technically creating a medication reconciliation program in a um, in an institution. So external factors can be the health policy of the government, national guidelines, specific on medication reconciliation, on creating patient medication profiles. So what we usually use in national policy on medication reconciliation is the pharmacy law. So in your juris, no, you've discussed 10918, and you should have seen there that the new pharmacy law requires that pharmacists in the community setting and the hospital setting should create patient medication profiles, and that should and can be a basis of the medication records of the patient. Therefore, we can do a medication reconciliation in that patient medication profile. There are some countries that allow accreditation for medication reconciliation, like US, Canada, because they have a national policy about it. So there are standard operating procedures used nationally on medication reconciliation that they can adopt in their institutions. There are internal factors as well, such as culture, leadership, size and structure of the organization, nature of ownership of the intervention, and availability of resources. So in culture, for example, is there an interprofessional communication that is currently working in the organization that allows medication reconciliation to be used by or the medication records of patients done by a specific professional and used by other healthcare professionals. So for example, if a pharmacist does the medication reconciliation, is that record actually used by physicians, nurses, physical therapists when they do their interventions? Leadership is, for example, in PGH, is the chief pharmacist open to doing a medication reconciliation program, or is the deputy director allowing that program to flourish or to actually have that program? And is the medical director also open for the pharmacy services to actually expand in size and structure of the organization? So this is a main concern, especially in PGH, because PGH is a tertiary hospital. It has a lot of wards. So are clinical pharmacists actually trained, and are they enough to cover all the wards? So currently, only wards 1, 2, 3, and 4 are covered by clinical pharmacy services that actually also do medication reconciliation. Therefore, there are many other wards that are not covered. So what are the reasons bakit ward 1 to 4 lang yung meron? So wards 1 to 4 are the medicine ward, so sila yung sobrang dami talagang gamot. Sila yung patients na usually may renal problem, so usually mga patients na CKD stage 5 na. So ayun, marami silang gamot for dialysis. Therefore, merong ginawang prioritization. And syempre, kapag mas marami ng pharmacists na maging available, then there can be talks to have clinical pharmacists as well in other wards. Nature of ownership of the intervention. So, yung mga pharmacists ba yung gumawa ng SOP on medication reconciliation? Did doctors, nurses help in creating that SOP? Meron bang some kind of team integration when using that medication reconciliation records? And availability of resources. So yun, may additional pharmacists ba? Do they conduct trainings? Do we use some kind of technology for the records to be placed in an electronic medical record, or are we still paper-based? Another one is, so this is an example, so this is a study on the completeness of medication histories in hospital medical record. So this just shows that when a patient actually goes to a hospital, nagagawa ba yung medication reconciliation? So kasi nga, it's not part of the usual process na ginagawa ng usual na mga healthcare professionals who are on indirect patient care. So parang marami ba or is medication reconciliation done most of the time? So based on this on this table, ang sinasabi lang dito ay the number of drugs that are placed in the health medical records of the patient, so parang yung EMR niya, while when the study was conducted, ang nakita based on their questionnaire was there were fewer na list na medicines. Therefore, there were medicines na merong commission errors, meaning when in the usual process of taking medication records in the HMR or in the EMR, marami yung hindi naman talaga iniinom ng pasyente. So PU drugs or possibly used drugs these are drugs that were prescribed to the patient before the patient was confined to the hospital, and these possibly used drugs are drugs that were dispensed to the patient by a community pharmacy. So therefore, so nakikita natin dito na there are drugs that not found in the EMR of the patient, but they are possibly used drugs, therefore they were prescribed to the patient before, pero hindi siya na-take note nung pumasok siya sa ospital. So omission errors, meaning hindi lang talaga siya na-record, and drugs that are not used according to the questionnaire of the study. Therefore, based on the study, meron daw omission errors yung facility na 26%, meaning 26% of the medications of the patient were not recorded in the hospital. Therefore, because hindi nila alam na merong mga gamot na tinitake ang patient outside of the orders of the hospital, there can be possible drug-drug interactions, there can be possible medication errors that can happen dahil hindi na take or hindi na take note yung mga gamot. Number of commission errors naman, meaning drugs that were basically they were listed down kahit na hindi naman talaga siya iniinom ng patient, are at 2.7%. Ayan. So therefore, the need for medication reconciliation is important, or kailangan talaga siyang ginagawa. And yung mga tao na dapat gumagawa ng medication reconciliation should be properly trained so that walang nangyayaring omission errors and walang nangyayaring commission errors as well. Next is what happens kapag merong care transitions. So kapag may care transitions tayo, it can be transitions in the setting. Kapag na-admit yung patient, once the patient is in the ward, when the patient is in the ward, natatransfer ba siya? For example, from the ER, the OR, then transferred to the ward again, and then changes in service. Like for example, meron siyang may main service yung patient, so yung main niya na doctor, for example, is neuro, pero for example meron siyang traumatic brain injury, na confine siya because of a traumatic brain injury, pero ang patient din ay may hypertension, may diabetes. So ang patient ay may internal medicine na consultant, or pwede meron siyang cardio, meron siyang endo. So iba-iba yung services na nagko-cover sa kanya, and those services can prescribe medications for that patient as well. So, pwedeng nag-iiba-iba, no, yung piniprescribe ng different physicians nakasali dun or naka-onboard dun sa pasyenteng yon, practitioner. So, pwedeng yung doctor, pwedeng yung nurse, pwedeng yung pharmacist, yung nagko-cover dun sa patient. So, the pharmacist, for example, can double check with a doctor kung correct ba na binabaan niya yung dose, tinaasan niya yung dose to make sure that the error does not reach the patient level of care. So, when the patient is in the hospital, in the infirmary, at the outpatient clinic setting, so they are all transitions of care. So when we do medication reconciliation, this list came from the study of Redmond. So ito. So yung systematic review. So according to that study, the recorded settings of medication reconciliation were on pre-admission. Ibig sabihin ay before pa siya officially admitted to the hospital, kasali sa for example, kasali sa pagta-triage dun sa patient ay yung pagko-conduct ng medrec. Another is during the admission of the patient. So, pwedeng prospective or retrospective kasi ang medication reconciliation. So, syempre during admission ay pwedeng may binibigay na sa kanya na gamot. So, when that is being provided, ginagawa din natin yung medication reconciliation. So, pinagsama natin lahat yung current na orders together with what the patient has been taking before. During hospitalization, so pwedeng magkaroon ng transitions during hospitalization, then during discharge, post-discharge, and outpatient clinic. So this figure just shows kung ano ba yung nangyayari sa patient kapag nako-confine siya sa ospital. So when the patient gets admitted, nagkakaroon ng initial assessment sa kanya. In that assessment, pwedeng ipasok natin ang medication reconciliation based on the SOP of the hospital. Pwede ding hindi. And after that assessment, then the healthcare providers orders medications for the patient. Kapag nagkakaroon na ng additional orders, syempre mas nagiging complex yung pag-reconcile ng medications niya. When after that order, nagkakaroon ng medication administration, kaya tayo may medication administration orders or medication administration record. So yung MAR natin based on our discussion of the medication use process, if you can remember. And then documentation of the care. So yung paggamit natin ng patient charts, paggamit natin or ng EMR ng patient. So the patient chart or the EMR is used by different healthcare professionals. So by doctors, by nurses, by pharmacists. So ang pharmacists, we provide pharmacist notes, and we also provide our PCP, our PMP, pharmacist care plan, patient medication records in that EMR. Then we also provide interventions, making sure that correct yung in order, correct yung dinispense, correct yung in-administer by double checking with different healthcare professionals the accuracy of the medication records found in the chart or in the EMR. We also have different internal patient transfers. Yun nga, kung for surgery yung patient, kailangan niyang i-transfer sa ibang ward. Communication of information among providers using that documentation. And then discharge planning and patient education and discharge instruction. So meron tayong ginagawang discharge summary, which includes the medications of the patient. So this picture is an example of what we do in the college, no, when providing patient medication profiles or creating patient medication profiles in the community. So example to ng intern natin in the community setting when we have our internships. So we interview the patient to create the best possible medication history. So yung gagamitin ninyo for this activity na tawag dito, yung if-fill up ninyo, no, ay example of that patient medication profile so that you can cover all of the medications of the patient. Okay. So another evidence that shows, no, how medication reconciliation affects outcomes. So this is again the study of Redmond. So since systematic review kasi siya covers a large population and it shows how good the intervention is basically on using the different studies that were covered. So in that systematic review, yung nakita niya na or yung nakita with this specific outcome na at least one medication discrepancy per participant yung nakita when conducting medication reconciliation. Different settings, no, yung naging basis depending on the studies included in the systematic review. So on admission, on discharge, throughout hospital stay, and the pre-admission clinic. So the following risk ratios were found. So during admission, yung risk ratio na at least one medication discrepancy per participant compared to walang nakitang discrepancy because no medication reconciliation was done ay 0.43, upon discharge 0.71, throughout hospital stay 0.92, and pre-admission clinic 0.38. But as you can see, so yung mga confidence interval, number of participants, and number of studies covered by that systematic review are also found here, meaning na maraming studies, no, na pinapakita kung ano yung nagiging effect ng medication reconciliation. However, when these studies were assessed, there was very low certainty of evidence, meaning there is a need to conduct studies na maayos, for example, mga randomized controlled trials that shows kung ano ba yung outcomes ng medication reconciliation program nung hospital na yun to see kung maganda ba yung nagiging effect, because the certainty of evidence would show that the study was conducted properly. When a study is conducted properly, then the level of evidence that they provide would be more accurate. So since very low certainty yung nakikita nating evidence now and the studies included, ibig sabihin, we're not sure if the studies are actually good or maganda ba yung totoo bang maganda yung outcomes, no, ng medication reconciliation. So kahit na ganito yung risk ratios na nakikita natin, ay hindi tayo sure kung accurate ba itong mga risk ratios na to dahil very low yung certainty of evidence na meron tayo as of now. And this study is very I think ito yung mga isa sa mga pinaka comprehensive na study, because when we use kasi Cochrane as our basis for systematic reviews, very comprehensive yung report nila, so you can actually check this review so that you can see all other outcomes that they check. So may primary outcomes and secondary outcomes silang inaral in that study. And the number of studies that they covered in the systematic review is more than this. Kasi it depends on the study that they included kung meron bang mga outcomes na to. So this is just one outcome, yung at least one medication discrepancy per participant. So this is just an example, no, of the results of that study. So the step-by-step process of medication reconciliation are creating the best possible medication history. So we will cover the BPMH in many of our slides later. Comparing this BPMH with medicines prescribed on admission, at inpatient transfers, or at patient discharge, and identifying discrepancies and reconciling these discrepancies by classifying them as intentional or unintentional, and by taking the appropriate action and documenting interventions. So in our activity, hindi natin gagawin yung pag-classify if intentional or unintentional, no? Kasi kayo yung gagawa ng medication reconciliation, meaning hindi nyo, kung mali yung nagawa ninyong BPMH, then hindi nyo masasabi kung unintentional ba yung hindi nyo pagsali ng gamot, 'di ba? So hindi nyo siya ma-cover. Ayun. So ang gagawin lang natin ay 1 and 2. So the BPMH is a comprehensive, systematically derived list of regularly used medications, both prescription and non-prescription agents. So the possible sources of information of our BPMH are the following. So the patient or caregiver, medication vials or blister packs, medical records, the discharge plan of the patient, medication administration record, community pharmacy list, and the consultation notes. So, ayun, pwedeng yung EMR ng patient, if the patient is already in the outpatient setting, then pwedeng yung discharge plan niya or discharge summary niya. When the patient is in the hospital, then ayun, pwedeng yung EMR, pwede yung medication administration record, pwedeng kung ano yung bedside niya, no, na blister packs or vials na available. So initially, we should interview, no, the patient or their family member, their caregiver, where possible, because they are the best source of information. Kasi throughout the different care settings, ang constant is ang patient. So nagpapalit-palit yung mga healthcare providers, nagpapalit-palit yung setting niya. Pero siya yung nagte-take ng gamot. Therefore, siya yung best na person na pwedeng mag-provide ng information about their medication history. So we base all our information from the patient and verify that using different databases. So if the patient or the family member is not able to participate in the medication review or medication history taking, then other sources such as these can be utilized, no, by the healthcare provider or, for example, the pharmacist. And they can also make sure that if there is conflicting information, dapat meron tayong records na nagve-verify ng information na provide ng patient or ng caregiver. When asking for the BPMH of these patients or caregivers, then we should ask, no, open-ended questions. So like questions like ano ba yung mga gamot na or prescription medications that they regularly take or usually take, what are the OTC medicines that they take, or what medicines without a prescription do they take, and also questions on what herbal supplements or vitamins do they take as well, which can elaborate, no, on the list of medicines na ang binibigay or tinitake ng patient. So there can be close and you can also ask close-ended questions kapag specific information na yung kailangan nyo. So for example, you can ask kung how the patient takes the medication. So kung meron siyang, for example, cataract, you can ask if the medicine that they are taking is per orem or by mouth, or is the medication an eye drop. So very specific na yung question yun, no, to complete the BPMH, dahil hindi lang yung list of medications yung kailangan nyo when you do the BPMH. So kailangan din how they administer the medication, ano yung dose ng medication, and para saan siya. So patient and family involvement is very important, again, because the patients are the only constant in the process as they move throughout the healthcare system. So habang nagkakaroon ng care transitions, like na-discharge siya, so patient na siya, pumupunta siya ng pharmacy, pumupunta siya ng ospital, siya yung constant dun sa healthcare niya. So therefore, sila dapat yung actively na nai-involve in medication history taking. They should be educated about the importance of MedRec by keeping an up-to-date list of their medications and or bringing in their medications when they are admitted to the hospital or attend pre-admission and outpatient clinics, and show their medication list at each encounter with a healthcare provider. For example, no, sa OPD ng PGH ay some patients bring their medicine. So minsan meron silang pill box, minsan ay nasa isang Tupperware lahat ng gamot nila. So therefore, na double check natin when we conduct our medication reconciliation na accurate, no, yung ginagawa nating medication reconciliation compared to what the patient is saying, and also comparing it with kung ano talaga yung mga dala niyang gamot. So sometimes when the patient for example says na nagte-take siya ng insulin pero wala siyang dalang insulin, which is actually okay lang kasi wala kailangan, no, naka cold chain yung gamot, pero just for example, so nagdo-double check tayo with the patient na may tinuturok ba siyang gamot para sa diabetes niya, to validate yung information na may insulin talaga siyang iniinom or ginagamit. And we also need to inform the patient or educate the patient that he or she should also be speaking up if they believe that a mistake has been made with their medications. So for example, ako, I'm a I'm an active patient. So may ako long-standing na illness. So I have medications for pain management. So when I go to the ER, so syempre, because there are the residents or the fellows that are there are not my main physician, or hindi siya yung primary, no, na healthcare provider ko, then the tendency is nagiging conservative sila sa treatment. Therefore, ako as the patient need to inform them na, for example, yung yung medications that I'm taking now are neurological, for neuropathic pain, and strong na neuroreceptor na medications. So hindi pwede, for example, na NSAIDs lang yung binibigay sa akin kasi alam kong hindi yun gagana, for example. So dapat alam yun, no, ng healthcare providers that are currently providing health tawag dito, interventions for me sa ER. So kailangan magsalita ng patient when possible mistakes are being made in their care. Then patients should be informed of any changes made to their medication regimen and have a clear understanding of how to take medications on an ongoing basis. So usually, when a patient is in an inpatient in the hospital, minsan hindi niya na alam kung ano yung mga gamot na binibigay sa kanya. Therefore, dahil hindi na siya nai-inform, even the family members do not get informed anymore sa medications na binibigay. So, kailangan nasasabi sa kanila na itong gamot na ito ay ina-administer because may ganito siyang sakit. For example, nagbibigay ng epoetin alpha for the patient. So, does the patient actually know na epoetin alpha yung binibigay sa kanya? Does the patient know bakit siya binibigyan? So, nakakalimutan yun na sabihin sa pasyente. Therefore, for example, when a medication history is being created for the patient in another hospital or at the outpatient setting, hindi na nade-describe ng patient yun dahil hindi siya informed sa mga gamot na binibigay sa kanya sa ospital, and there is walang records na pinoprovide usually yung hospital sa patient sa kung ano yung mga gamot na binigay sa kanya. So, nagkakaroon ng gap sa past medications ng patient. When that happens, so kailangan ay nasasabi sa kanya or na e-educate siya on the medications that he or she is taking when confined, when discharged, when in the outpatient setting. So who are the patients that need to have medication reconciliation? Of course, ay gusto natin na lahat ng pasyente ay na-providean, but because of limited resources, kailangan nating mag-prioritize ng patients. So, geriatric patients or patients aged 65 years old or older, patients with polypharmacy or patients taking multiple medicines, patients with higher risk medicines, because these medicines usually have narrow therapeutic index or have alarming na mga ADRs. So anticoagulants, opioids, insulin, antiepileptics, anticholinergics, and immunosuppressants. Patients with renal impairments, because these are the patients that need to have adjusted doses. Patients in critical care setting, so patients na nasa ICU, ayun. Then, transplant patients, so may patients na for liver transplant, for kidney transplant. So, before and after the transplant ay kailangan clear yung medication records niya. And patients with low health literacy, because these are the patients that need to have a list of their medications kasi sila yung mga possible or mas madali na nakakalimutan yung mga gamot nila or walang correct na information kung ano yung dapat iniinom nila. So, going back on the BPMH, so sino dapat yung nagko-conduct ng history taking, medication history taking sa pasyente? So, it can be any healthcare professional, pwedeng physician, pwedeng nurse, pwedeng pharmacist. But there have been many studies that have shown that pharmacists are actually the best healthcare professionals who should conduct a medication history. So, for example, this study shows that kinompare niya kapag yung physician or yung pharmacist yung nagko-conduct ng BPMH. So, yung comparison nila ay the pharmacist documented significantly more medication doses with p-value of less than 0.01 and dosage schedules than physicians. Therefore, mas accurate yung so you can possibly t-test. For example, yung ginawa nila dito, nag-compare sila ng um uh, dalawang variable ay dalawang populations, pharmacists and physicians. Tapos yung variable nila ay on medication doses and on dosage schedules. So kinumpare nila ngayon if may difference ba. So they found that there is a difference. Therefore, mas marami yung na-take note ng pharmacist na doses and mas marami yung na-take nilang schedule. Therefore, mas accurate yung medication history na na-take ng mga pharmacists than physicians. And the discrepancy rate ay 21% compared to pharmacists. Therefore, kulang yung natitake note ng mga physician. As what I've said earlier, no, for example, sa OPD ng PGH, ito yung example ko kasi ito yung ginagawa ko sa PGH. So, mas marami akong experience. So, physicians usually do a medication reconciliation of prescribed medications. And sometimes, ang medication reconciliation na ginagawa lang nila is specific to their service. So for example, kung internal medicine ka na service, ang kino-cover mo ng medication reconciliation ay kapag may cardio yung yung patient, may endo siya, may ID siya, infectious disease, may pulmo siya. So, yun yung mga nako-cover ng isang internist or ng internal medicine na physician ng PGH. Pero, for example, the patient also has a psych doctor. If the patient has a neuro na doctor, if a patient takes OTCs, if the patient takes herbal supplements, then hindi nako-cover yun ng isang internal medicine na physician. So, syempre, if the patient also goes to that service, for example, sa psych, why would the doctor try to reconcile the medications din ng patient sa ibang sakit niya? So, usually na gumagawa nun ay yung pharmacist. That's why merong discrepancy na nangyayari kapag ang nagko-collect ng medications ng patients ay doctors. Ayun. So, usually ang nagiging tanong ng pharmacist kapag nasa OPD ng PGH ay, ito po yung mga gamot ninyo. Meron na sabi po ng doktor ninyo based on the recent na consultation, because the patients go to us after consultation. So, pagkatapos nun, meron pa po ba kayong mga gamot na iniinom? And for example, the patient has a neuro na doctor. Therefore, pwedeng may chart siya sa PGH, ibang chart basically. So you can double check kung ano yung mga gamot na sinasabi ng pasyente compared to that chart. And then kapag may OTC naman yung patient, ay you can ask the patient kung alam niya ba kung ano yung brand name, yung generic name, any information that you can accurately have para so that you can accurately identify kung ano yung gamot niya. Then you can ask, dala niya ba yung blister pack ng gamot na yun? You can look for a picture of that medication sa internet and double check it with the patient kung ito ba talaga yung iniinom niya. So that you can have an accurate picture of the medication history of the patient. As I've said, yung best na person na dapat nagtitake ng medication history ng patient and does the medication reconciliation is the pharmacist. However, because of pharmacist shortage, ay hindi siya kayang gawin for everyone. And also time constraint. So this study by reader showed that when doing medication reconciliation, it takes around 30 minutes. Therefore, sobrang haba ng time na kailangan gawin para lang magkaroon ng medication history taking dun sa pasyente. So, parang sayang siya sa time kung meron pang ibang trabaho yung pharmacist. So, for example, we do medication history taking in the OPD because yun talaga yung role natin. And for example, yung counseling kasi na course, no, yung tumatao doon. So, because kulang yung mga pharmacist ng PGH, ginagamit natin ang faculty ng college and also interns of the college to do that work. And again, kahit na nandiyan na silang lahat, kulang pa rin. So parang hindi talaga kakayanin kung yung mga current lang talaga na employed na pharmacist ng PGH yung gagawa. Ayun, kaya impractical na gawin siya routinely. So one of the ways that can circumvent that is when we already have a process, for example, of doing a medical history of the patient during admission, dapat part na nun yung pag-conduct ng medication reconciliation. So, for example, a clinical pharmacist must be deployed in the tawag dito, sa ER. Then, there can be specific services lang na binibigyan, for example, nitong ganitong kind of service. Sabi natin kanina, we have specific patient groups na dapat ay nagko-conduct tayo ng MedRecon. So, pwedeng, for example, we can identify services, bale. So, for example, 65 years old and older, multiple medications. Usually, these are patients na nasa internal medicine. So, pwedeng yun yung service na pwede nating pagbigyan ng medication reconciliation na service. Patients with renal impairment, so yung mga under nephro na service, sila yung dapat ay na-identify natin yung patient. So, pwedeng ganun. So, we need to identify kung sino dapat yung mga pasyente na important na mabigyan ng medication reconciliation instead of providing the service to everyone. Kasi yun nga, hindi nga siya kaya based on pharmacist shortages and the time that is needed to do the medication reconciliation. And when doing the BPMH or creating the BPMH, we need to take note of all prescribed and non-prescribed medication. So this can be yung currently kaka-prescribe lang na gamot, hindi na prescribe na gamot, yung dati na prescribed and non-prescribed na gamot, and then complementary medicines like vitamins, supplements, herbal medications. In the Philippines, we do traditional medicine, no? So usually Southeast Asia, that's why meron tayong mga agencies din for that kasi very active yung traditional and folkloric medication sa Pilipinas and other countries. So we also take note kung they do decoctions or pinapahid ba nila yung, for example, yung dahon sa parts of their body. We also need to take note of recreational drug use as well because 'di ba nga medicines that are high risk are also recreational drugs din. So mas maraming may drug interaction sa kanila. And medications na as needed yung basis na sometimes ay hindi na-take note ng patient kapag ito yung tinatanong natin sa kanya. Sometimes we ask patients na para na ma-cover natin yung prescribed and non-prescribed medications, we ask them na ano ba yung gamot na iniinom nyo sa umaga, sa hapon, sa gabi. So kapag ganun, hindi natin cover yung PRN kasi nga as needed siya. So wala siyang specific schedule of the day na kailangan siyang inumin. Now, once we already have our BPMH, we need to compare our BPMH with medicines in transitions of care. Because pwedeng nag-iiba-iba no, yung tinitake na or piniprescribe na medications sa patient kapag nasa transitions of care siya. Okay. So, based on WHO standard operating procedure on tawag dito, on medication reconciliation, ito yung list no of transitions of care that we need to take note of where we need to conduct medication reconciliation para na nako-compare natin yung best possible medication history of the patient dahil dito pwedeng nagkakaroon ng changes on the medications of the patient. So, on admission, which or where we can conduct medrecon or medrec proactively or retroactively. At internal transfer, so from ward to ward or from OR to ward, then ayun, at discharge and post-discharge and prior to next episode of care or at the outpatient and community settings. So on admission, we can conduct BPMH once the patient enters a facility. So in-interview natin sila on their current medications, review at least one additional source of information. So yung sabi ko kanina, pwede natin i-review yung EMR niya, pwede tayong manghingi no, ng list from a community pharmacist kung meron ng PMP yung pharmacy na pinagkukuhanan niya ng gamot. And we can also review outpatient charts of the patient, ganun. Then create the BPMH of the patient. And that BPMH can either be paper-based no, or electronic. So when a hospital has an EMR, then pwede nating ipasok doon yung BPMH ng pasyente. Then, medication reconciliation of a patient on admission can be a proactive record or it can be a retroactive record. So, a proactive model just shows na we do the medication reconciliation before pa siya mabigyan ng bagong gamot when on admission. So, we do the medrecon prior to the medication orders. While retroactive model is na-admit na yung patient, then meron ng mga orders for that patient, and then we conduct the medication reconciliation afterwards. So bakit merong iba-ibang models, no? That can be because walang nagko-conduct ng medication reconciliation upon admission. Kasi 'di ba kapag upon admission yung patient, papasok siya for example in the ER. Then when the patient is in the ER, 'di ba sobrang busy sa ER and pwedeng when we do the patient history, hindi na nagagawa yung reconciliation of medicines kasi mas important na nabibigyan siya ng kung anumang intervention yung kailangan niya na emergency. So, in that case, pwedeng nakapag-order na ng medication for the patient, nabigyan na siya ng gamot, hindi na siya na-interview. Then, if that happens, retroactive na yung pagko-collect natin ng information. Therefore, it can be more prone to errors and there can be discrepancies. So, dahil sa mga possible discrepancies and medication history taking, mas matagal yung retroactive na model compared to proactive kasi nga possible na nalaman for example the patient has kidney failure but the patient is also diabetic and the patient has been taking metformin. 'Di ba hindi pwede ang metformin kapag mataas ng eGFR ng patient. So upon admission, pinahinto yun. And then, binigyan siya ng insulin, for example. Then, in that case, nagkaroon na ng changes dun sa gamot ng pasyente. So, we need to have measures to make sure that we double-check the discrepancies of the medication list of the patient before confinement and the medication list of the patient during confinement. Kaya, mas maraming pagdo-double check kapag retrospective yung model of medication reconciliation. At internal transfer, medication reconciliation medication should have been done beforehand. Pero, pwedeng magkaroon ng new orders kasi there can be new services na on-board dun sa pasyenteng yun. Pwedeng nagkaroon ng change sa status ng patient. Pwedeng after na nagkaroon ng surgery ang patient. So, nagkakaroon ng changes dun sa gamot niya. Pwedeng may nagkaroon ng additional, pwedeng may pinapause muna yung gamot, may mga gamot din pwedeng stop. So, in that case, we need to check kung meron bang bagong medication orders. We compare that with the BPMH and kung ano yung medication administration record ng patient. So, based on the new BPMH that you have created and comparing that with the past BPMH and the current or the past na medication administration record, meron bang changes? Kung walang changes, then there's no need to change the BPMH of the patient. If there are changes, then we need to contact the other healthcare professionals. So for example, the prescriber. Kung correct ba, for example, na tinaasan ng prescriber yung pag-take ng gamot ng pasyente or correct ba na stop yung medication. So, for example, ano ba? We had a case before in one of your activities on a patient that had liver failure because of paracetamol toxicity. So, hindi ko sure if nasali to sa case, pero in that case, so that was an actual patient case that I had when I was doing my observership sa National Poison Management and Control Center of PGH. So, one of the things that happened there was one of the doctors na on board ay pinastop niya yung pag-take ng N-acetylcysteine of the patient. But, di ba alam natin that NAC is the, tawag dito, siya yung antidote for paracetamol poisoning. And there is a specific time na kailangan tinitake or specific phases na kailangan tinitake ng patient yung paracetamol, ay yung NAC na yon. And ayun, so the toxicologist is the one who is making sure na tinitake yun ng pasyente. Pero since pinastop siya ng ibang doktor and walang nakapag-double check na dapat ba pinastop talaga yun. So there was actually a time na hindi talaga nag-take yung patient ng NAC. And because of that, yung SGOT, SGPT levels ng patient before siya pinastop ay bumababa na siya. But because NAC was stopped, tumaas siya ulit. So, mas tumagal yung stay ng patient sa hospital because of that error. So, that's why it's important na dinodouble check natin if correct ba na pinapastop, pinapapause, or may ina-add na medications dun sa patient kasi there can be or there needs to be a justification why it had to be stopped, paused, or added. Ayun. And then, if correct na in-add siya, pinastop, or pinapause, then we need to implement the new orders. Then, update the medication administration record na kailan ba dapat ini-inject sa pasyente to, kailan ba siya dapat naka-IV piggyback, ganyan. Then ensure that the medication administration record and the BPMH are available in the patient's medical record so that all healthcare professionals in that are on board that patient are all informed. Ayun, then upon discharge, it's very important no that the patient is informed na pwedeng kasi nga pwede na during confinement ay hindi alam ng pasyente yung mga binibigay sa kanya. But on discharge, the patient should be educated on the medications that were given during during confinement. Ano yung mga gamot na hindi na kailangan inumin after confinement. And then, ano yung mga kailangan i-continue. So, remember, the patient could have been taking medications before the patient was confined. So, kailangan niya din bang i-continue yung mga gamot na yun. So, therefore, the discharge plan of the patient is all of the medications of the patient that he or she needs to continue once he or she is discharged. So, is the patient being discharged from the facility for outpatients? Is this the end of the current encounter? So, if yes, gagawa dapat ng discharge order, discharge plan, or discharge summary for the patient. And kung kailangan bumili ng pasyente ng gamot outside, then kailangan din siyang gawan ng prescription. Then we compare that discharge order or discharge summary with the BPMH and the medication administration records of the patient in the past 24 hours. Because yung past 24 hours na yun, siya yung pinaka-updated bale na binibigay na gamot sa pasyente. And compare that with the discharge order or the discharge summary of the patient. And then we evaluate kung may new medications, discontinued medications, adjusted, unchanged, not to be continued, medications held in the hospital. Ibig sabihin hanggang hospital lang siya pinapainom, non-formulary or formulary adjustments, new medication started on discharge, and additional comments like dapat ba kino-continue pa rin niya yung supplements niya, yung herbal supplements niya, and may mga PRN pa ba siyang medications. So, based on that discharge order, dapat i-double check kung may discrepancy ba o wala. So, kung wala naman, kasi nga kailangan nating i-double check no, yung discharge order with the BPMH and the MAR during discharge, during admission, may discrepancy ba yun o wala. So, kung walang discrepancy ay we communicate that information kung kailangan pang i-double check with the physician or pwede na ba natin siyang i-discuss with the patient. So, there are many people no, that we can include in the discharge plan of the patient. Pwedeng kasali yung patient, yung pharmacist, community pharmacist kung saan siya bumibili ng gamot. This is usually what happens in other countries na clear na kung saang network yung patient dapat kasali kasi yun din yung pharmacy kung saan siya dapat kumukuha ng gamot. And then the patient's primary care physician kung saan doon na siya dapat bumabalik instead of going back to the hospital and other healthcare facility or services. For example, patients with renal failure, pwedeng nagda-dialysis na siya. So dapat nasasabihan din yung dialysis clinic niya. Then the information that needs to be given to the patient and other healthcare facilities or professionals are their new medications that have been discontinued, medications that have been adjusted. Ibig sabihin ay nag-change ng dose, nag-change ng drug delivery system, yung unimportant na pero pwede pa rin sabihin sa kanila ay medications na hindi naman nagbago or kailangan pa rin i-continue pero there was no change, medications held in hospital, non-formulary or formulary adjustments, new medications upon discharge, and addition comments as appropriate. Then we discharge the patient. So in that discharge plan or in that SOP on medication reconciliation at discharge, we use a discharge plan. So it's the best possible medication discharge plan, which is the most appropriate, accurate list of medications the patient should be taking after discharge. So ito yung ina-account niya. Ito mga nandito kanina. Ayan, so hindi ko na ulitin. But for example, in PGH, what we have is a discharge summary. So in this discharge summary, so lahat ng information na about the patient upon discharge ay nandito. So ano yung diagnosis niya, bakit niya kinailangan ma-confine, number of days confined, so yung kailan siya na-admit, kailan siya na-discharge, sino yung attending physician niya, history of the illness of the patient, bakit siya na-confine, vital signs, laboratory tests done, radiology tests, course in the ward. So in this case, ER lang yung patient, no? And then yung laboratory tests na ginawa sa kanya and the discharge plan. So the discharge plan includes kung ano yung mga non-pharmacologic and pharmacologic na kailangan gawin ng patient. So in this case, parang ano nangyari sa pasyenteng to? This is just an example, no? Nakita ko lang to sa internet. So multiple injuries due to mauling. So in those multiple injuries, ano ba dapat yung gagawin niya kapag nasa bahay na siya? So warm compress on affected area. And then, yung therapeutic management niya. So as needed for pain daw, take tramadol plus paracetamol. So ito lang yung bale gamot ng pasyente upon discharge. So pero therefore there was no actual BPMH of the patient, or walang place kung saan dapat pinapasok yung BPMH. So when we do a best possible medication discharge plan, what should be included are the following. So although hindi siya ginagawa sa PGH as what I've said, usually what is found in the discharge summary ay kung ano yung mga kailangang i-continue na gamot ng pasyente. So yun na yung nakasulat dito upon discharge. So there's no information kung ano yung new medications of the patient, ano yung discontinued, ano yung in-adjust, ano yung unchanged. So, and kasi nga, 'di ba? Basically, kung ano yung laman nitong discharge summary is only this, itong part na to. So walang accurate information kung ano yung mga past medications niya, ano yung mga current. Ayun. So therefore, there are many ways on how we can improve actually, no, yung discharge plan ng pasyente in the Philippine General Hospital, to include this information para na mas accurate yung medication reconciliation ng patient. And when the patient goes to a different facility, ay pwedeng in the Philippines where we are in a low resource setting, pwede niyang dalhin to para na instead of facility to facility na exchange of information, at least the patient has this information at hand na pwede niyang ibigay sa next facility kung saan siya kukuha ng care. And then post-discharge or in the community setting. So again, meron siyang discharge plan na hawak. We need to inform the family members and other facilities na included upon post-discharge. And then the third is reconciling the discrepancies, no? So last slide na to. Reconciling the discrepancies ay we need to double check kung meron bang mga intentional discrepancies na ginawa, unintentional discrepancies. Kasi nga kanina when we checked for in between transfers, discrepancies are checked within the workflow, because the current BPMH can be different with the new orders of the healthcare professional. So dapat may nagdo-double check ng discrepancies. So these discrepancies can be categorized as intentional or unintentional. Intentional meaning there has been a change in order. Merong inad, may binago, may pinos, may stinop na medication, pero hindi pa siya nako-cover ng BPMH. So may intentional discrepancy, adding, stopping, changing the medication based on the medication order of the healthcare professional, pero hindi pa siya nako-cover ng BPMH. So that intentional discrepancy needs to be updated in the BPMH of the patient. There can be undocumented intentional discrepancies, meaning hindi siya nasulat sa chart, hindi siya na-reconcile or na-record sa BPMH ng patient, pero intentional yung paggawa ng discrepancy na yun, or hindi lang siya na-document. So, ibig sabihin ay if it's not documented pero kailangan siyang ibigay. For example, nagkaroon ng ano ba? Wait lang. Hyperkalemia yung patient or hypokalemia yung patient. So kailangan niyang bigyan ng calcium ng calcium. So pwedeng hindi siya nalagay sa order pero gumawa ng prescription. So, hindi clear yung documentation kasi wala siya sa chart pero ginawa ng prescription. Pero nakita natin sa lab values ng patient, kailangan niya talagang bigyan. So, it's an undocumented intentional discrepancy. So, in that case, kahit nawala siya sa chart, in order siya, kailangan pa rin niyang ilagay sa BPMH ng patient. And unintentional discrepancies. So these are discrepancies in which the prescriber unintentionally changed or added or omitted a medication the patient was taking prior to admission. So yung mga nakakalimutan, so usually these are errors of omission, sometimes errors of commission, na kahit na hindi naman talaga tinitake ng patient ay nasasali siya sa BPMH niya, or may mga gamot na tinitake yung patient pero hindi nasali sa BPMH niya. Ayun, so those are the steps in doing medication reconciliation. But again, because there are certain limitations in conducting medication reconciliation in different health settings, meron tayong mga challenges na kailangan kahit na when conducting medrecon or medrec, meron din tayong mga challenges na kailangan pagdaanan. Like, sometimes there can be incomplete BPMH or ayun, may mga unintentional discrepancies na nangyari. So, paano ba siya nako-correct? It can be by conducting medrec in between transitions of care para na ma-make sure na pinaka-complete yung nasa BPMH na ng pasyente every time that we do medrec. Sometimes there can be challenges as well in interprofessional communication because pwedeng hindi gamitin ng ibang healthcare providers yung nagawa nating BPMH, or sometimes hindi nasasali yung pharmacist sa interprofessional collaboration. Then nagkakaroon ng discrepancies again sa BPMH dahil hindi tayo actively involved. And then another one is on, again, lack of resources. So lack of pharmacists, lack of use of technology. Like for example, sa PGH, ang problem ay we do medication reconciliation, pero that record is only used by the pharmacist. hindi siya na-access ng ibang healthcare providers because it's not part of the EMR. So, hindi siya part ng radish ng PGH. So, currently, ay tinatry na ipasok siya, pero hindi pa siya nalalagay. So, parang kahit na meron tayong BPMH ay hindi siya nagagamit. Bale, na-update lang siya because na-update siya ng pharmacist. Pero, pwede siyang i-double check ng pharmacist, for example, if there are new orders. Pero kapag kailangan na siya ng ibang healthcare providers, hindi siya readily available for them. Kaya lack of resources is really a problem, especially in government hospitals. Ayun. So for our activity, ay, wait. For our activity, you were provided with, with a case in your activity guide. So kindly read that case, and then you are also provided with this PMP. So sinulat ko na lang na medication reconciliation form siya kahit na some parts of it are for PMP na. No? So in this case, because you're trying to get the demographics of the patient then, because we need to identify the patient. That's why these information are here. The background of the patient if available in the case. And then, so ito yung important, no? So what are the current medications that the patient is taking? So ano yung mga prescription medicines niya, ano yung OTC niya, herbal supplements niya. Herbal supplements and vitamins, meaning they are already in dosage forms or in drug delivery systems. Another traditional and complementary medicine, meaning yung dahon pa, tree bark pa, ganyan, kung meron man yung pasyente. Syempre, kapag ganito, no, ay hindi natin nasasabi kung ano yung dosage, strength, frequency, yung route of administration. Sometimes we can, pero for example, ay kung dito yung kaya nyo lang sabihin ay iniinom ng pasyente, yung decoction, pinapahid niya sa kamay niya, and pinapastay doon for ilang minutes, ganyan. So, yun lang yung ilalagay nyo. Hindi na kailangan yung, for example, yung dose. Ayun. And then, next is yung past medication ng patient. So, the same. Pero, syempre, yung mga hindi niya na tinitake as of now. So, kindly add or delete rows kung hindi niyo siya kailangan. So, for example, kung isa lang yung vitamins niya, so kindly delete this. Ayun. Then, kung wala naman siyang traditional or complementary medicine, and then, so delete everything. And then, available laboratory tests of the patient. And then, your assessment, no, on drug therapy problem. So, I'm not expecting you to actually know everything. So, kindly just give 2 examples ng pwedeng possible na DTPs ng pasyente. For example, yung a patient takes paracetamol and medication that contains also paracetamol but of other brand name, or meron siyang of other brand name. So na may duplication siya of therapy. So you answer this, and then you describe kung bakit siya drug therapy problem. So yun, double dose siya ng paracetamol, ganyan. So only 2 examples for the whole DTP na table. So pwedeng isa dito, tas wala dito, wala dito. Ayun, so I'm not expecting you to answer or to identify everything. And then, based on what you found, no, na drug therapy problems, so because the medications of the patient can be problematic. So, ito yung current niyang medications before your assessment. So, after your assessment, ano naman ngayon yung, ano yung gusto niyo na dapat binibigay na sa pasyente. So basically, ano yung dapat care plan niya. So this part is um a bonus, hindi siya part ng grade, but if you want a bonus, you can answer this. So based on the drug therapy problems that you have identified, ano naman ngayon yung bale accurate list of medications na ng patient and yung medication taking schedule niya. Ayun, so anong oras niya dapat iniinom yung gamot and ano yung bagong list of medication. So basically, ito yung med-recon nyo after identification of your DTPs. So ano dapat yung correct na iniinom niya ng gamot ngayon. Okay, so the deadline for this form is on Monday. So that's April 22. Ayun. If you have any questions, please inform me na lang through message in Canvas. Thank you.